women and women of color, of Jewish and Muslim women, of poor women, of disabled women, and of lesbian, bi, queer, and trans women. We must recognize that what it means to be a woman has never been static, and that those who would seek to impose a monolithic ideology of womanness are those who would limit us in their narrow definition of what we can be. The systems of oppression that seek to restrain women are intricately linked with those that perpetuate anti-Blackness, violence against trans women, and the disenfranchisement of immigrants and workers. But together we have the power to dismantle those structures and empower one another. Together we can reimagine a society in which all people are free and able to care for and nurture their families and communities, however those are formed. Together, we can cultivate environments that are safe, healthy, and free from structural barriers. Earlier this month, it was young female Senate staffers who protected the boxes containing Electoral College votes. They carried the ballots as they were evacuated during an armed attack on the United States Capitol, and in doing so, they defended the democracy that elected this country's first Black, first South Asian, and first woman vice president. It was Black women who organized Black Lives Matter into a global force for change, and 52 years ago, it was Black and Latinx trans women who spearheaded the gay and trans liberation movements that have propelled the fight for LGBTQ+ rights into the mainstream. Together, we continue to fight to end violence. Together, we work to secure the rights of LGBTQ+ people, of women of color, of people of color, of incarcerated people, workers, people with disabilities, and immigrants. Together, we march for environmental justice and for civil rights. Together, we are stronger. I am pleased today to lift up the voices of women in our own Cedar Valley community whose work embraces the spirit of the freedom and equity that underpins the Women's March platform.
Hello, everyone. I'm Melody Kasabucky, the president of Black Hawk County Now, which is a chapter of the National Organization for Women. It's wonderful to see you all here today. And a year ago, I was addressing you with a megaphone outside in person. But it's really awesome that even a world pandemic won't stop you from coming together and hearing about these really important issues. But the first speaker I'm thrilled to introduce is Timi Brown-Powers. Powers is the Iowa State Representative of House District 61. Timi has been a fierce advocate for women's rights her whole life and has taken that passion with her to the Iowa House. She's a strong believer in female leadership and the importance of women's roles in society. While at home in Waterloo, Timi spends time volunteering with the Youth City Council and mentoring young students from both West and East High School, along with UNI students. Timi takes her role as a state legislator very seriously and stands up for women's rights on the Iowa House floor every chance she gets. She is proud to be a female leader and stand up for women within her district and across the state of Iowa. Thank you for being with us, Timi.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad that we can still do this. However, I would rather be outside with the megaphone. So, when Melanie reached out and said, will you speak? I thought, yeah, let's talk to women. And then this week was an absolute horrible week at the House. And so it became quite clear that I needed to speak to all of you. I needed to let you know what was going on. And what passed out of the Iowa House this week is disgusting. So on Wednesday night, we were there late into the evening, and we were standing for women's rights. House Study Bill 41 passed the Iowa House on party line, as you might imagine. And this bill is a constitutional amendment that will ban abortions in Iowa. Now, it has always been the colleagues on the other side of the aisle to reduce abortions in Iowa. So just let me take you on a little stroll and kind of update you on what has happened since they have started their initiatives. Since they've started right before their initiative, we actually were lowering abortions in the state of Iowa by 56%. By empowering women, by offering education, by offering contraceptive, and by providing education within our schools. So guess what's happened? Yes, it has gone up. Actually, since they have taken over, the abortion has risen 25% in the state of Iowa. Our family planning centers, prior to their initiatives, we're seeing over almost 6,000 people in the state of Iowa, helping them with education, family planning, LGBTQ issues, birth control. And guess what? In the last year, they saw 1,200 people. So that tells me that a lot of people are missing out on the opportunities and the education and the services they need across Iowa. Now, to talk about this bill real quick, and this is why I need all of you on, and I think there's 49 of us on, and I need 49, and I need to triple that across in our county. But this bill is going to take away all of your rights. This bill is going to take away the right for a woman to make any choice on her own body at all. This bill is going to restrict birth control in Iowa. This bill is going to hinder those families trying to have families with any infertility issues. This bill is going to not take anything into consideration as far as if a woman is raped or a woman has been incest by a family member and gets pregnant, she still will have to carry this child. This bill is the worst thing coming out of Iowa yet. And I had thought I'd seen it all. But this bill is going to be a terrible, terrible bill. It is coming out of the Senate next week, and it will come out. And this is why elections do matter. It will come out. So it is a constitutional amendment. So let me just make sure you understand, it will pass this General Assembly. It will need to go through another General Assembly, and then it will be on our ballots, ladies, in 2024. So we have next General Assembly, we have a chance to kill this, which we need to come together and do. And we also then, if we can't, then we have to get out in that 2024 election and make sure that we kill it then. This is vital for women to pull together. This is the very first time that the Constitution is being amended that will actually take rights away. Another thing that, and I said this on the floor, but a woman can have sex with 100 men in a year. And how many times can we get pregnant, ladies? One time. A man can have sex 100 times in a year, and he potentially could impregnate 100 women. So my question to the House that in a Wednesday night was, should this constitutional amendment be about women, or maybe it should be about the man? And I'll tell you what, ladies, we had some big eyeballs staring back at me because, boy, they didn't want to talk about that. Their family leader was sitting up in the gallery with us that evening, and she was pushing that we even take away all birth control in Iowa. So my challenge then back, because it was God's way, she tells us, so that birth control actually interferes with God's way. So ladies, as many of you know me well, I then say if we are going to pursue that legislation, then we will also need to pursue the Viagra, because that is God's way. And so we will leave that in God's hands, and you will no longer be able to use that medication either, gentlemen. So we have a lot of work to do. I am so glad that we pulled together today to empower each other. One of the things that I think that we need to do as women much, much better than we do is we need to appreciate each other. We need to use each other's strengths. We need to empower each other. Women can do so much more. In the Democrat caucus of the House, the women are the majority. And we need to resonate that across Iowa. We need to become the majority across Iowa. We can multitask. We are compassionate. We are quicker on words. We understand what's going on. And so we've got to pull together, and we've got to really start appreciating one another much better than we do. This world has become so toxic, and it really needs to end. The toxicity, and we've got to pull together to do that. I want to also really give you a quick update that we have a handful of LGBTQ bills coming through the Senate and the House. On the House side, they were all presented by Representative Salmon, and they are hatred, toxic bills. And I need all of us to speak up and make sure we're sending that message back to the Capitol that we do not condone any of this behavior or this toxic world. I just want to, one of my favorite quotes, and I say this to the students all the time that are frustrated, but I think we need to remember that we are braver, stronger, and more beautiful than anything. And we have got to pull together to fight this toxic world that's trying to invade us. It is clear that the leaders around us are taking us in the wrong direction. They're trying to stomp us down and destroy what we are about. And I think Stacy or somebody said it earlier that after today, we're going to end today, but I hope we all go forward trying to take care of one another and be kinder to each other and build each other up. That is just essential in this world today. And we have the majority coming at us in a negative way. So my challenge is to you is to empower each other, respect each other, and build each other up. And just thank you so much. And hopefully next time that we are doing this, we are together and actually holding each other up. Thank you so much, Melody. And thank you everybody for joining us. We picked up a couple more folks, and thank you for joining.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Timi. Those are sobering realities that we're living in right now, but I appreciate the stress that you've placed on coming together and encouraging other people to vote. This isn't just about our own actions, it's about encouraging other people to stand with us and come together as a greater force. It is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker. Toshia Burrell is the co-founder, president of Embrace, Celebrating Diversity, and she's the director of employee engagement at the SL Group and the owner of Redefine and Reveal Massage Therapy and Bodywork. Burrell is a Fort Dodge and Iowa native, is actively involved in the Waverly and Cedar Valley communities. She takes pride in her work towards educating others on truths around the topic of diversity, inclusion, and equity, and inviting others to have tough conversations with her in order to help garner increased understanding, empathy, and action for equality towards her white peers. Toshia is instrumental in the founding and leading of Embrace, Celebrating Diversity, which engages community involvement via education, conversation, allyship, and celebration. In Toshia's 3 years in the community, her efforts were rewarded as a recipient of the 2020 Top 20 Under 40 Award. Toshia, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much, Melody, for that introduction. And I'm truly honored to be chosen to speak today in the midst of other amazing women in the community and on behalf of UNI's Women and Gender Studies. By no means am I a professional speaker or is my story any more unique or more profound than others, but I hope to share some experiences, personal experiences, and truth as a Black female, as a Black business owner, full-time employee, single mom of a 3-year-old son, to shed some light on the work that needs to be done regarding racial justice, women's equity, and inclusion, and hopefully inspire hope in the fight to carry on the torch for women today and of the future. I won't go too far back in time of what it's like to be in 3rd grade, being called the N-word for the first time, or the difficulties I faced growing up as a biracial child, hardly ever seeing hair, skin, or face like mine, almost anywhere from books to movies to friends, and how I never felt comfortable enough in my own skin as being too white for my Black friends or too Black for my white friends. But I will share a few experiences in different settings that, despite my efforts to overcompensate with the best grades, styles that were widely accepted by the white culture to fit in, and even to strive for perfection in almost everything I do, has caused me to not only still face discrimination to this day, but also struggle to be authentic. I understand that when I mess up as a Black female, that it's looked down upon much stricter to my white counterparts. So I've continued to rely on titles and positions in my workplace, my credit score, my GPA or master's degree, amongst other things, to prove my self-worth to my white peers. just simply to be accepted. Before I share some of my stories with you, I must first acknowledge that the fact that I'm fully aware of my privilege. I have 2 parents. I have a higher education from private schooling, financial stability, good health, and of course, lighter brown skin that is more widely accepted. I'll start briefly by recapping my previous life in the world of coaching, collegiate athletics, or men's league. Despite earning my way into multiple head coaching positions as an assistant athletic director, as a head coach at various colleges in Chicago, beginning at the age of 25, I can count on all my fingers and toes the amount of times I was asked, "Did you get this job because of your looks?" Or being walked past by referees to shake the assistant coach's hands, assuming I wasn't the head coach. Or when I was an assistant coach for a white female who was insecure about my ability to build strong rapport and trust with players. And although acknowledged and relied on my basketball IQ, uninvited me to the team holiday party and a community service team event because she needed more time alone with the players. In other words, felt threatened by a strong, qualified Black woman. As I reflect back to more recent days and the summer months when the tragedies of Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd sparked social unrest and the Black liberation movement, I quickly learned that I was loved by many until I was liberated. I've heard so many times, "Everyone loves you," until I felt liberated to speak my truth, educate about systemic racism, acknowledge white fragility and privilege, and boldly proclaim how Black lives matter. Being liberated in my Blackness and voice has caused experiences in the past 6 months to go from love to loneliness. Some examples include, a family who cared and loved for me and my son, who then post racist comments on Facebook. Once I addressed it respectfully with the intent to talk it through, forgive and forget, and turned quickly into refusal to meet to discuss. Darvo, denial, attack, reverse victim and offender. A threat from a related family member to keep my effing mouth shut, and abandonment for my care for my child, and a 3-month refusal to return the key to my home. Loved until liberated. After a 2-page spread in the local newspaper article sharing love and light on the Black Lives Matter movement and addressing challenges faced with pictures of me and my son, I was greeted with mail to my home from members in the community with their angst. I was told how many in the community were upset about what I considered to be an uplifting message. The fear and paranoia begins to set in as one of only a few minorities in the community. Loved until liberated. After serving as guest city council person for the month of June in the midst of the tragedy of George Floyd, I expressed my fear and cried for vocal support and action from the mayor and council members. After being met with silence, I continued to share and urge them to listen to the members of the Waverly community, and also presented about Embrace Celebrating Diversity in the Cedar Valley, a grassroots organization that I co-founded, in which we shared about the need for support and requested a task force be created along with other initiatives around this topic that were established 2 years prior with zero action. Yet despite the work, it took Waverly to be made local news about a racist event for a task force to be created. A diversity task force in which I was not invited and only found out after 3 other members of Embrace, who at the time were all white, were asked and I was not. After one rescinded out of frustration that I was not invited, I then was asked by the mayor to join, but really simply to even out the female to male ratio. No acknowledgement or apology of the oversight to avoid inviting the one Black female who just served as guest council person that month and enlightening the group about racial issues, but proceeded to explain how he went down the email list and my name was last on the list. Or when the mayor publicly gaslights you on Facebook while sharing the actual event that you created, Embrace the Race, to help bring unity and awareness to the community and diversity and inclusion, leading to 149 comments, the majority from him, that ended so badly with comments such as Confederate flags are not racist and you should leave our country if you feel that way, that finally he removed the post, which went against everything Embrace and our event stood for. Loved until liberated. Working for a corporate office for the first time as the only Black person of the entire company of 120 to be asked to lead in these efforts while being met with resistance, asked to give others the benefit of the doubt, told to calm down and relax, questioned on how or why I came for the company in the first place, and being present in meetings in which I don't have a voice, or when I do regarding this topic, it's not well received because of white fragility. Loved until liberated. These are just a few examples that I have had that have led to genuine fear, physical and psychological unsafety, causing much stress, anxiety, and depression, leading me to the decision to actually move to Des Moines in the middle of winter, actually next week. However, despite all of these things in the Waverly community, the past 8 months has fostered an environment for several allies to rise up and speak on behalf of myself and other marginalized groups. We've hosted several book clubs, hosted Embrace the Race, started an Embrace free little library filled with books of diverse authors and stories for school age to adults. We've had several people sign our Embrace Thy Neighbor pledge, and we just finished our Embrace Equity 21-day challenge. I personally have also led several tough conversations, reliving trauma to help others understand and shed some light on the issues that Black people and especially Black women face. What I'll wrap up with in my time are a few takeaway and actions. 1, women love on each other, support each other, and celebrate each other's wins. We are powerful and, like anything, so much more impactful when we are united. 2, to all my Black and brown women out there, especially the little girls out there who may not see others like them, know you are beautiful and have every opportunity to fulfill your dreams. 3, I encourage everyone on this call to follow at Embrace Celebrating Diversity in the Cedar Valley for insights on truth by education to help lead to conversations, allyship, and action. Education on the truth of our country, the good, the bad, and the ugly, in order to actually change the world from what we know to what it can be. 4, take action. From speaking up to your friends and family, learning how to spot implicit bias and microaggressions of your own, let alone others, including learning how to stop hate speech, vote, research, and be involved in your local city council. Number 5, as a Christian, I personally believe in the power of prayer. However, I also believe God has asked us to take natural steps in order for him to do the supernatural. So I encourage you again to take action, to not be okay with just being kind and being nice. That's the gold standard we were taught when we were in elementary school and kindergarten. It's not enough to just be kind. We have to take action, and through the power of prayer and action and love on others, I believe that we can make organized change. And lastly, number 6, if you can be anything, be inclusive. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for that powerful admonition, Toshia. And as Toshia had referenced, please go and follow and support Embrace Celebrating Diversity. We'll also post that on the Women's and Gender Studies Facebook page in the near future in case you want to go find a link to check that out. Our next speaker is Amanda Goodman. Amanda Goodman is the Executive Director of Family and Children's Council, the area's child abuse prevention agency. Because of her work, the YWCA of Black Hawk County recognized Amanda as the 2019 Women of Persimmon Youth Advocate of the Year. Amanda is an Emmy Award-winning journalist who spent 18 years working as an anchor in the television news business, with her last stop at KWWL. She knew it was time to exit the business when more value was placed on her appearance instead of her journalistic integrity. Amanda is also an outspoken advocate for women and equal rights. She often refers to her days in news as the boys' club and was ready to pull the rug out on all of it. She and her best friend and former KWWL anchor, Tara Thomas, host a podcast called Faith and Four Letter, which airs weekly on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. The ladies call it an unapologetically real look at surviving the boys' club, perfect poly, and motherhood, all while living in the glassfish bowl. It's my pleasure to turn it over to Amanda Goodman.
Thank you so much. I apologize that my video is not working. I told everyone before that there was an incident with my 3-year-old daughter. I thought about how I wanted to start this because this is a very important year. We are starting to cut our feet with all the glass that's on the floor, right? Now we've shattered that glass ceiling, but we need to take the whole damn thing down. Because this may sound strange, but I am working towards the day when it's no longer headline news that a woman is in a major leadership position. Because we need this to be the normal. Our daughters need this to be the normal. Our sons need to know that this is the normal. So what do I want you to take away from today? I want you to start being okay with people not liking you. Because as women, we worry about people not liking us, don't we? I want you to accept the fact that you will have haters. I want you to accept the fact that you will be the topic of conversation. I want you to accept the fact people will write negative things about you all over social media, all over in the papers. I want you to accept the fact people will spread gossip and rumors about you. I want you to accept the fact people will go out of their way to bring you down. I want you to accept the fact that when you are fighting for change, fighting to be heard, then you will have enemies. And you need to celebrate that, because that means you've stood up for something in your life. I'm coming off a week where I've been roasted, posted about, slanderous gossip has spread about me. I've been threatened. They've tried to blackmail me. Why? Because I spoke out about racial injustice. I spoke out against those who have deep pockets in our community. It is not okay to have white children telling Black children they do not belong in a certain community. It is not okay to have the N-word proudly displayed on a cookie. It is not a joke. It is not funny. So you know why they came for me? Because I'm a woman, and they thought they could. They thought they could make me cry. They thought they could push me over. They thought they could break me. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. I often like to remind people that I am from South Philadelphia, so I am not Iowa nice. I have to be like that. I've been in the public eye for 20 years, and the script has always been the same. My male colleagues would speak up. They were leaders. I would do the same. I was labeled a troublemaker. I worked in the Boys Club of television news for a very, very long time. While my male colleagues were in the newsroom working, or if they were out in the field covering a story, I was forced to be in the studio learning how to properly put on makeup. Yes, I had a 75-minute tutorial on how to contour my Sicilian nose to look smaller because it was too big for television. I was forced to go on these ridiculous diets when my male counterpart was allowed to puff up. I received an email from a consultant one night after the newscast that said, bangs or Botox? When I responded with a, huh? He wrote, you need bangs or you need Botox. Meanwhile, the male anchor was morphing into the crypt keeper and no one was saying anything to him. I would share ideas for stories in an editorial meeting and they were met with eye rolls or a quick dismissal. My male colleague would later pitch the same ideas and there might as well have been a ticker tape parade for him. People in the community would call in, they would write, those old-fashioned letters to the newsroom, or they would post constantly criticizing my hair, my clothes, my makeup, while my male colleagues would literally wear the same suit every single night. I realized all the Emmy Awards I won for stories that I had done, things that I wanted to write about to help change the community, it didn't matter. I'm a woman. And because of that, my role was to keep my roots done, my face wrinkle-free, my makeup flawless, my waist small, and my mouth shut. We are conditioned to think like that ever since we were little girls, aren't we? Like to stay in that box that they hand us. We go from being called bossy on the playground to bitchy in the boardroom. I like to teach my girls the other B word, bold. Be bold. Throw away that damn box that you've been told to fit in. Stop apologizing for being vocal. Stop apologizing for having an opinion. Stop apologizing for not agreeing with a decision. Stop apologizing for making someone uncomfortable with the power of your intelligence and the power of your presence. Stop apologizing for being a feminist and pro-woman. Stop apologizing before you speak. Stop apologizing for how you dress, how you do your hair, and stop knocking down other women. It is time right now to take up space. It's time to take up space in our community like a Mack truck weaving in and out of the highway. We can't change our community, our state, our country, the world if we're sitting by silently trying to follow someone else's rules, if we're sticking to the prompter that they give us to read. I'm telling you this, when you start to live 100% unapologetically and authentically you, that's when your life begins. I waited too long. So I'm asking you, I'm challenging you, just start today. Because the women like me, the ones who are in that arena getting their ass kicked over and over again, we're a little tired. We're taking a break. We're strong, but we're tired. We need you. And just remember this. I want to end with this. Nobody will watch you harder than those who can't stand you. So ladies, it's time to put on a show. Thanks so much for having me today.
Thank you so much for that, Amanda. That was wonderful, wonderful reminder. And I think we all needed that for today. We are going to move to our keynote speaker. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Reverend Belinda Creighton-Smith. Smith is an adjunct instructor in social work and women's and gender studies at the University of Northern Iowa and a pastor of faith, Temple American Baptist Church. Dr. Reverend Belinda Creighton-Smith received her doctorate of education in December 2019 from UNI with her dissertation, Examining Linkages Between Institutional Racism, Internalized Racial Oppression, and Self-Efficacy in African American Youth. She's a lifelong social justice advocate and activist, has been an anti-racism trainer for correctional and human service workers and professionals, and also a diversity and inclusion facilitator. As one of the first ordained African-American female pastors in the Waterloo, Cedar Falls area, she has been the pastor of Faith Temple American Baptist Church since 1999. Belinda is an active member of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, also known as NAACP, since 2012, and an executive committee member of the Black Hawk chapter of NAACP since 2015. She is also an executive board member of Social Action Incorporation since 2015. A veteran of the Army, she was part of the military police and is involved with the Sister Soldier Network, an organization that celebrates the experiences and honors service to the country of all women and enhances the visibility and viability of Black women who served. Dr. Reverend Belinda Creighton-Smith also received the first YWCA Women of Persimmon Award for professional women in 2007. Welcome. We are so happy to have you.
Thank you, Melody, for that wonderful introduction. And I am so grateful to be here this morning. I give deference to the elders who paved the way for me to be here today. I stand on the shoulders of women like Ruth Anderson and Martha Nash and Billy Lloyd, and the list goes on. I give deference to my mother, the one who bore me, and my feisty grandmother who bore her. It is as a result of their tenacity and their beliefs in me that I am here today, sowing seeds of life in me in spite of the seeds of death that the world threw my way. They encouraged me, embraced me, and enlivened me with breath that sustained me in the most difficult times. So I give deference to and pay homage to. I pay homage to the ancestors from whom I have come, who made their way across the Middle Passage and survived, which means that I am the strongest of the strong because I am still here, because we are still here. And so I am grateful to be here today, and I am honored to share during this time. But I must confess that whenever I am required to talk about the issues of women in our country, I cannot help but begin with the issues of race in our country, because as a Black woman, I am a Black woman, and those two intersect and are hard to disengage from one another, given my experience is intertwined with those social constructs. So that I want to start, if you will indulge me, I just want to start with talking a little bit about the current condition in which we find our country. More Black men are incarcerated, Michelle Alexander revealed, today than were in slavery in 1850. More Black men incarcerated today than enslaved in 1850. The American Public Health Association declared racism a public health crisis. Every social indicator, in every social index, Blacks fare worse than their white counterparts. They fare worse when it comes to unemployment, life expectancy, health outcomes, premature births, and infant mortality. They fare worse when it comes to the criminal justice system and the Department of Human Services. They fare worse in the juvenile justice system. And our children are removed from our homes at a disparate rate, even when we present with the same situations. We find ourselves in a situation in our current condition that since 2015, 135 Black men have died at the hands of law enforcement, and that 20% of the women killed by law enforcement are Black women, and 28% of all the people who were unarmed and killed by law enforcement are Black women. How did we get here? How did we get to a point where COVID is ravaging our communities of color? How did we get here? Well, you all know that I'm a pastor and I tend to preach, so let me back up. We've always been here. I mean, when have we not been here? Cornel West says it this way, and I quote, "To engage in a serious discussion of race in America, we must begin not with the problems of Black people, but with the flaws of American society, flaws rooted in historic inequalities and long-standing cultural stereotypes." Well, end of quote. Cornel West hits it right on the head. We must acknowledge that we've always been here. We must acknowledge and address the harsh reality that the very foundation upon which this country was established was that it was established on a race contract, and that every institution is infused with that life force that says that people of color are less than their white counterpart. Just as there was a social contract, there is a race contract. And this race contract is deeply encoded and embedded within the nation's DNA. This contract determined and determines today who is fully human and who is considered subhuman, savage, expendable, incorrigible, who can be exterminated, who can be terrorized. As West and other notable scholars contend, we must admit this horrific truth in order to make any gains, any inroads into dealing with and dismantling this system. So I understand that we must move forward to bring about change, right, to improve the life outcomes. But in order to move forward, we have to address these harsh realities. We have all been marred by this complex system of oppression, a system where a human being is considered 3/5 of a man, a system in which women did not even have the legal rights to their body or to their children, and that their legal rights were established initially as a result of being connected to a man as their husband. We all have been marred by this complex system of oppression, this duality that exists, where we sometimes as people of color, as Blacks, even as women, accept the duality accept the standard that has been imposed upon us by what it means to be successful, by what it means to be strong, by what it means to be prosperous, by what it means to succeed. But the reality is that we must be liberated from this lie. Yes, it is a lie. It is a subhuman connotation of what it really means to be human. Freire notes it this way. He says that we must perceive the reality of oppression not as a closed world from which to exit, but as a limiting situation that we can transform. Freire, I love him. He's positive. He says that there's work that we must do within ourselves to be liberated from the mindset that we have to be like them. He says that this is to be our motivating force. And I agree that this must be our motivating force. This must be the hope that drives our actions. This must be the fuel that continues our fire, the burning in our soul to bring about change. This must be the purpose for which we live, move, and have our being. For the oppressor, they must realize, he says, their collusion, complicity as the oppressor. They must realize their collusion, their alignment, their benefit from the act of oppression. They must elicit this reality may elicit anguish and guilt and shame, but you can't stay there. Freire says it this way. He says, rationalizing one's guilt through paternalistic treatment of the oppressed, all the while holding them fast in a position of dependence, cannot work, and it does not help. But you see, it's hard to navigate those terrains without a system of accountability in place. And so as allies thrive to truly be allies, then you have to listen, as Toshia stated, to the voices of the oppressed. You must realize that they're the only ones that really know what's going on when it comes to oppression. Here's a good example. This summer, like most of you, probably all of you, I witnessed in disbelief, in trauma, in anger, in fear, in rage, in anguish, the killing of George Floyd. And for me, the neck upon George's neck, the knee upon George's neck represented so much more. Not only did I see the life being drained out of George Floyd's body as though he was not human, with no regard for his life, not only did I hear him call for his mother, and as a mother, my heart was pierced and torn from my chest as I heard that cry. Not only did I see the inhumane, the evil, the lack of concern on the face of the officer who committed this atrocity, I also saw the 400 years in which the knee of the oppressor has been on the neck of the oppressed. And as I watched this, it's as though the life force within me was drained out with every breath George Floyd took. And as he ceased to breathe, my heart sank into the pit of my stomach. Sometime later, maybe a few days, a week, I'm not sure how much time passed, but sometime later, an individual contacted me, a white individual, and that person felt the need to do something. She felt the need to do something. And what she shared with me as being a colleague of hers was that we need a racial healing circle. We need a racial healing circle. In the aftermath of the knee of a white officer being pressed upon the neck of what could have been my brother, my husband, my father, my son, my nephew, my cousin, my neighbor, a racial healing circle. Healing from racial trauma cannot occur until we deal with the truth. The truth is that from the inception of this nation, we have regarded people of color, Black people, Indigenous people, Latinx community, Asian Americans, and all of the rest of the people of color and women as less than their white, male, heterosexual, cisgendered, wealthy, middle-aged counterpart. And that may not be a counterpart. But you see, a racial healing circle is not what I needed. What this nation needs is a reckoning with the truth, dealing with this nasty mess that this nation has created, and then working every day of our lives to undo this mess that we find ourselves in, acknowledging the mess and dealing with it. As allies, as women, this is our harsh reality. As Black women, we are oftentimes placed in a position where we have to choose whether or not to deal with the issue of race or our womanhood. They are so intertwined that we cannot separate them, that we are concerned about our Black men. We're concerned about our lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer counterparts. We are concerned about our children in school who aren't getting adequate education. We are concerned about our young people being killed on the streets by drugs and alcohol and other kinds of behaviors as a result of living in economically depressed neighborhoods and conditions. We're concerned about all those things, and all of those things make me the advocate, the activist that I find myself being every day of my life. I admonish you to please join in this work, for there is much work to be done. And until we deal with it, it will not be reconciled. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for your time. I want to thank one more time as well our amazing speakers today, Representative Timi Brown-Powers, Toshia Burrell, Amanda Goodman, and the Reverend Belinda Creighton-Smith. It's been an absolute pleasure to be with you all today and to share in this space and in this moment in time. Hearing your stories reminds us of the diversity of histories in this country and the fortitude with which those histories propel us forward. While our individual experiences may vary, I believe it's clear that we are stronger together and that we can be bolder together. Our work continues for ourselves and for each other. We may not be able to see one another in person, but the reality of our diverse lived experiences persists. And this truth remains the same, that women's issues are not limited in their impact. As I said at the beginning, our work must always include the lived realities of women of color, of poor women, of disabled women, and of queer and trans women. Empowerment cannot come at the cost of oppression for others. Together, we are stronger. I believe we can do incredible things together, and I look forward to seeing the futures we can create for ourselves and for our communities. Thank you all again, and let's get to work.